AWS Solution Architect Associate, AWS Applications. SQS, Simple Queue Service. A message queue that can be used to store messages while waiting for a computer to process them. A distributed queue system that enables web service applications to quickly and reliably queue messages that one component in the application generates to be consumed by another. It is a temporary repository for messages that await processing. Using SQS you can decouple application components to run independently, and any component can store messages in fail-safe queues. Messages can contain up to 256 kilobytes of text in any format, and any component can retrieve them programmatically using the SQS API. The messages can go beyond the 256 kilobytes, but are then stored in S3. 2 queue types. Standard queues and FIFO queues. Standard is default, almost unlimited message per second and guarantee delivery at least once. More than one message may be delivered, and they may be delivered out of order, though they provide best effort ordering. Not a guarantee. If an app cannot cope with multiple copies of a message or messages out of sequence, use FIFO. FIFO assures messages will be delivered in order, message preserved until a consumer processes and deletes it. No duplicates. FIFO also supports message groups that allow multiple ordered message groups in a single queue. FIFO is limited to 300 transactions per second, but have all the capabilities of standard queues. SQS is pull, not push. Need an ECS instance polling the queue. Messages are kept in the queue between 1 minute and 14 days. The default is 4 days. Visibility timeout, the amount of time a message is invisible in the queue after a reader picks it up. Provided the job is processed before the timeout expires, the message is deleted. If not, it becomes visible again, which is what can result in the same message being delivered twice. The visibility timeout can be increased up to 12 hours to overcome this. SQS regular short polling returns immediately, long polling doesn't return a response until a message arrives in the queue, or the long poll times out. You can reduce EC2 poll cost by using long polling. Long polling is configured in seconds. Anywhere you see decoupling, think SQSS. Simple Workflow Service, SWF, is a web service used to coordinate work across different components. It enables a wide range of use cases including media processing, web application backends, business process workflows and analytics pipelines to be designed as a coordination of tasks. Tasks represent the invocation of processing steps by code, web calls, human interaction and scripts. SWF is a way to combine the digital with manual tasks. Used in the Amazon warehouse to deal with picking and packing an incoming web order. SWF workflows can last up to 1 year. SWF is task-oriented, SQS is message-oriented. SWF ensures a task is only assigned once, SQS you have to deal with possible multiple messages, FAFO. SWF keeps track of events in an application, where in SQS you have to implement your own app-level tracking, especially if you're using multiple queues. SWF Actor, workflow starter that initiate a process, a website for instance, and deciders that control the flow of the execution. In the event of failure, deciders decide what to do next. Activity workers carry out the activity tasks. Actors equals SWF, messages equals SQS. SNS, Simple Notification Service. Makes it easy to set up, operate and send notifications from the cloud. Easy and cost-effective to send messages from an application to users, or other apps. You can do push notifications to Apple/Google/Windows/Android and to China via Baidu Cloud Push. Can also deliver SMS texts, or email via SQS, or to any HTTP endpoint. Can group multiple endpoints using topics. A topic is an access point for allowing recipients to subscribe to copies of notifications. A topic can support multiple client types, and SNS will format the messages appropriately for each type. All messages stored across availability zones. SNS benefits: push-based, no polling, simple APIs, flexible message delivery, inexpensive pay-as-you-go, web-based console and point-and-click interface. Elastic transcoder, media transcoder in the cloud to convert from original source to other formats. Presets for popular output formats. Pay based on minutes transcoding and the resolution transcoded at. API Gateway, a fully managed service that makes it easy for devs to publish, maintain, monitor and secure APIs at any scale. Users connect to API Gateway, who are then redirected to Lambda, EC2, DynamoDB or whatever AWS service is appropriate to the API and application. API Gateway can expose HTTPS endpoints to define a RESTful API, serverlessly connect to services like Lambda and DynamoDB. It can also send each API endpoint to a different target. Runs at very low cost and scales automatically. Usage can be tracked and controlled with API keys. Requests can be throttled to prevent attack, and can be CloudWatch connected for monitoring. Also enables maintenance of multiple API versions. Define an API. Define resources and nested resources, HTTP paths, then set HTTP methods, get, put etc., set security and choose targets in EC2 or Lambda etc. Set request and response transformations. Deployed to a stage, using API Gateway domain by default, although custom domains can be used. It now supports AWS Certificate Manager for free SSL certs. API caching is a way to cache an endpoint response to reduce the number of calls made, as well as latency. When caching is enabled for a stage, API Gateway caches responses for a specified TTL in seconds. Same origin policy: a browser allows a script in a web page to access data in a second web page, but only if both have the same origin to prevent cross-site scripting attacks, XSS. Some tools, like curl and Postman, ignore the convention. CORS can be used to overcome the same origin policy from a server point of view. It is CORS that enables data to be served from an EC2 instance that may exist in S3, for example. Browser makes an HTTP options call, the server responds with a list of domains approved for the action. An error origin policy cannot be read at the remote resource. Means CORS needs to be enabled on the API Gateway. Kinesis Streaming data is data that is generated continuously by thousands of data sources, typically sent simultaneously and small in size. Kinesis is a platform on AWS to send streaming data to, making it easy to load and analyze, providing the ability to build custom apps. Kinesis streams, data producers stream data to Kinesis. Kinesis Streams stores the data for 24 hours by default, up to 7 days possible. Data is contained in shards, typically a shard per data type. A shard can handle 5 transactions per second for read, up to 2 megabytes per second and up to 1000 records per second for writes, up to 1 megabyte per second including partition keys. The data capacity of the stream is a function of the number of shards specified in a stream. The total capacity of the stream is the sum of the capacities of its shards. EC2 can analyze shards and then store it in DynamoDB, S3, EMR, ADS or whatever. Kinesis Streams allows persistent storage of stream data for 24 hours to 7 days. Shards equals Kinesis Streams. Kinesis Firehose, producers send data streams to Kinesis Firehose. No persistent storage, data has to be processed immediately, usually by a Lambda function which outputs to S3 and onto whatever. Kinesis Analytics can analyze data on the fly from either Streams or Firehose, before passing output to S3, Redshift or Elastic Cluster. Web Identity Federation and Cognito. Access AWS resources after auth with web-based providers like Amazon, Facebook or Google. Cognito is the AWS service for this. Cognito allows sign up and sign into apps, access for guests, brokers the identity transaction so you don't need to write the auth code, syncs data across multiple user devices. It is recommended for all mobile application AWS services. The recommended approach is to have a user send an auth request to their chosen provider, be given an access token which is presented to Cognito, which then grants access to the AWS app. Cognito provides temporary credentials that map to an IAM role, allowing access to the required resources. No need for apps to embed or store AWS credentials locally on the device, and it gives users a seamless experience across devices. Use pools are user directories used to manage sign-up and sign-in for mobile and web apps. Users can sign in directly to the user pool or using Facebook, Amazon or Google. Cognito acts as identity broker between the provider and AWS. Successful auth generates a JSON Web Token, JWT. Identity pools provide temporary AWS credentials to access AWS services like S3 or DynamoDB. Cognito tracks the association between user identity and the devices they sign in from. Push synchronization is used to push updates and sync user data across multiple devices. Cognito uses SNS to send a notification to all the devices associated with a given user identity whenever data stored in the cloud changes. User pools are user-based for login etc. Identity pools authorize access to AWS resources.